think that the fact that the George Floyd murder happened in the middle of a pandemic when people were, for the most part in the Western world, locked down, and they're watching this video over and over again of a man handcuffed, pleading for his life, and a law officer putting his knee on his neck, giving no mercy or concern for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. This was the spark that just lit a fire of concern and activism all over the world.
This time, is it going to sustain?
I think that it can sustain. Already we're seeing governors in the United States change some police laws. Even President Trump is coming with an executive order on policing. It, in my opinion, is toothless, but he never even acknowledged there was a problem until now. We must seize the moment now to deal with how policing relates to race in this country and in other nations around the Western world.
One of the most spectacular aspects of this is the extent to which essentially it has been completely peaceful protest. Obviously there have been minor exceptions, but can it be delivered? Can the lifting of the knee from the neck, as you've described it, can that be achieved by peaceful protest alone?
I think it can, as long as the peaceful protest is geared toward legislative and policy change. I think the peaceful protest can lead to some very fundamental change if we're focused and disciplined that that's what we're doing it for.
America has had a black president, and yet it was possible for white policemen to murder a member of the public.
I think if you study American history, we've always had a step forward and then a step back. We had 8 years of a black president who was able to bring health care that disproportionately helped blacks, that began dealing with voting irregularities that handicapped blacks, that dealt with police brutality. He formed the 21st Century Task Force on Policing. We knew there would be a backlash, and Donald Trump was the backlash. So when you understand that we knew a backlash was coming, then you understand what Trump triumphed. He was the backlash that set a tone that made people feel that they could get away with what they started to not get away with under Barack Obama.
Are you worried about voting irregularities potentially in this presidential election to come?
I'm very concerned. When you see what happened in the primary in Georgia, where people had to stand in line for hours, and by some magic, only the machines in the black areas were not working. It was a wake-up call to us that it is the intention of some forces to deny and suppress our vote and try to steal the election.
In the nicest possible way, you are really now facing having to vote for an elderly white man. Is he capable of, and I'm talking of course of Joe Biden, is he capable of delivering what the black population is demanding?
He thoroughly knows how to get legislation through. So I think he is capable. I also have said to him and said publicly, I would prefer him having a black running mate. I think that it is time we have a black woman vice president in this country.
50 years on from Martin Luther King's great declarations, and one wonders how long before we reach a place in America where black people, where people of other ethnicities than white share with the white population absolute equality.
We don't know how long, but what gives me the courage to keep going, and I came out of the King movement. I joined as a teenager the year he died. If he could have continued that fight 100 years later, if we could, and I've met several times, had conversations with Nelson Mandela that spent 27 years in jail, we can't complain about continuing that fight when there are people that invested more time than we have in our lifetime. How long? Until we win. That's how long. However long it takes, we're not going to stop.
I'm wondering if you saw the image of Patrick Hutchinson, who was a black man who was in a demonstration in London. You see him picking up a right-wing white protester who had collapsed in the crowd and carried him on his shoulder out into the throng to safety. For us, that was an amazing image, and I'm wondering if it was one that made it to your side of the Atlantic.
I saw it on television early one morning. I work out before dawn, doing physical workout. And I stopped my workout and watched this. And I said that this man reminded me of what Mahatma Gandhi said: we must become the change we seek. And this man helped to save somebody from possible harm, even though he was of an opposing view, which shows that we have the moral authority because we operate on a higher moral principle to raise these issues. And the best way to show that example is putting a clean glass next to a dirty glass. That man, Patrick, did more to show the public of the values and moral outrage at his highest level than any of us could have done with a speech. And I respect him greatly. And I hope next time I'm in England I can meet him.
Reverend Sharpton, thank you very much indeed for talking to us and giving us so much of your time. Thank you. And tonight, Patrick Hutchinson and his friends, who appeared on Channel 4 News last night, told us they would be honoured to meet Mr. Sharpton.